Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Let Loose with Lou. Here with my co-host, Steve.
What's up, guys?
You
What's up,
feeling
Lou?
a lot better? Good. How are you?
Better.
Are you?
I went to this wedding and got sick, so I'm just starting to get back to neutral.
All right.
A wedding in London.
Wait, in London?
That's right.
Wait, you were in London?
I flew across the world and
What?
went to a wedding in London. I have a friend of mine who married a British man.
Okay.
And so I was very fancy in Notting Hill.
What?
Yeah.
How was it? Because
Very
I'm
fancy.
dying to go.
Well, I'll give you some of the quick beats.
Okay.
So, like I said, I was there for a wedding. My friend married a British man and got to fly first class.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow. Fancy schmancy.
My wife figured out like the cool deal and like these these new planes have beds, so I actually slept there
Oh, nice.
and woke up
Very nice.
pretty well rested for what that flight is.
Yeah. What is it, a 12?
It's like a 10-hour flight.
10-hour flight.
And then I guess like the main highlights were we walked along the River Thames. You know, it was
Yes.
kind of a little romantic. Me and wifey had a
how
chance to just kind of
beautiful.
walk along the river and like poke around. And then we went to Borough Market, which is like a famous outdoor market, and had like a cool English fish and chips.
Ooh.
And
okay.
hung out together. And then we went to some of their classic, British department stores for shopping, like Harrods and
Dillard's.
London
Is it
Liberty.
Dillard's or
Harrods.
Harrods?
I can't think of it. Liberty London is another one. I can't think of the name of it.
Uh,
Anyway,
Yeah.
and then we went to the Tate Modern Museum, saw some art, and then just walked around these neighborhoods and through these parks. and
Beautiful.
ate some good Indian food. The
Ooh,
British have a
Indian
lot.
food out there?
They have a big, history with India. And so we had some
Wow.
really good
Okay.
curry.
Mm.
And then we went to a wedding, and then I got sick.
Well, it was all worth it, though.
It was
right?
all worth it.
I heard the food quality there is so much better than it is here. I hear that it's
I
just
wouldn't
so
say
much
all
better.
that.
Really? That's what I hear.
We have great food here, though, and
We have
all
good food
different
here.
kinds
Well,
of
I'm
food.
talking about quality, like FDA quality. Like our government regulates our shit.
Well, I don't know. I don't think American food's that great as far as like agriculture
Yeah,
goes.
exactly.
But anyway, story for another time.
Mhm. Definitely. We need to get into that one next. But today, guys, hi. We have our guest, Daniel L. Stone. Welcome. Welcome.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks for being
Glad
here,
to
man.
be here.
Thank you. It's such an honor to have you here. One, because you have served. So thank you so much for that.
Thank
Well,
you
I
for
tell
your
everybody, we did it for people like you guys.
Oh,
You know,
thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank
and
you
good
for your
admiration
service.
for
Yes.
military.
We appreciate it. But also, too, because we have his book,
And it's
the
called
title is
Crossroads at the Manor. It's really interesting. So I've only read about half. I just seen you on Monday. So I was like, I'm like, I have to read it in between, errands and stuff. But boy, let me tell you, as I read the beginning, I was like, oh no, this is going to be boring. I was like, no. I'm like, it needs to be a lot more interesting, right? But then after, God, I had the chills earlier because I was like, oh my God, this is getting good. But anyways, it's a love story. So I'm going to let you give us a little bit of details on this, okay? Because
Yeah, sure. Well, the first thing of it is, yes, it is. It's a 2-period piece.
Yes.
Okay. The story is about the ultimate human intellect
Mhm.
that gets caught up in the ultimate spiritual warfare.
Mm.
Yeah.
You have a pure love story in a modern day setting. You have a triangle love story that happened 100 years before.
Mhm.
That's the piece where it has to go back.
Yes.
Okay.
Now
But your job is to solve the mystery
yes.
of how these two love stories are both connected that happen in the same
I just got
manner
the chills again.
100 years apart.
It's that good. Like it's good. Someone needs to turn this into a movie or a series.
I
Well,
think-
we got a lot of people that said it reads like a picture show.
Yeah, that
They can see the matter. They can see,
Yes.
because it happens on a mystical suspense island
yeah. So
that many people said was the angels' playground on earth.
on Earth, correct? Like
Yeah.
I want to wake up and view, the balcony of my bedroom, 3 rainbows.
Yeah.
And 2 waterfalls on each side just gleaming,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So the thing was that the manor, which the villagers considered to be the 9th wonder of the world.
Yes.
And now, but the thing that most people have to understand is the manor was setting on a plateau between the 2 tallest mountains in that area.
Now, it's Canton? What's the name of the
Cranton.
Cranton?
Mhm.
Now, is that an actual place?
No.
So you
Okay.
said made up.
Right. Let me say this.
'Cause I had to Google
whole
it.
story is a mystical, suspense, psychological, fictional thriller. Okay? And I tell everybody that all of the characters are 100% fictional. But because so many people identify with the characters, it becomes a situation where a lot of realism, seems
That's
to be
where it comes.
interjected in the whole story by the people who read it,
Wow.
And so, that's the thing about it is that they do that. But I tell everybody, I made it to be where the ultimate human intellect was caught up in the ultimate spiritual warfare. So it is a spiritual vortex. In other words, there is no right or wrong answers, but it creates highly opinionated opinions.
And it does, because I went back and I was like, wait a minute. But certain keys stuck to me. When Nisha, told him I know that I put it in here when she said that he would pay with his kids or something.
Okay, now, are you talking about Jonathan?
Jonathan was the original that she was in love with, right?
Well, there's 2 Jonathans.
Okay, there's the first one.
There's the Baron Barry who was a Jonathan.
Yes, Jonathan
And that's
Barry,
the one thing now. And then you have Jonathan Hamilton,
which is
who
the new one,
modern
100
day.
years.
Yeah,
yes.
he's the modern day.
Mhm.
But if you remember, when he encountered Nisha at Lula Mae's shop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why I was like, wait a minute. Why is she so adamant? She was so adamant that it was her Jonathan.
Right. Well, now some people, because a lot of people believe that Christina was reincarnated. She was a reincarnated Meridian. But if you remember, Captain Dwight told Jonathan that while they were saying that, he thought he was the reincarnated Baron Barry.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a
so,
trip.
because their rise to fame was so similar.
Yes.
Okay. But Nisha's thing was she could never conquer Meridian.
That witch.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
She could never conquer Meridian. And so when she encountered Jonathan, in Lula Mae's shop, she wanted Jonathan to tell her in no uncertain terms that if he had seen her and Christina first, or Meridian, if you think that she was reincarnated, that if he had seen them both, he would love her, and he would take her over Meridian. Well, he understood that was a trick question because, Meridian had won over her every time, and she was just livid about that.
She was.
She was the one person that she could not overcome. And she wanted Jonathan because she wanted to rule Cranton. Because he was the leading
He was
citizen.
the elite of,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then when, he finally made it clear that, how could I do that? You lived 100 years before me, And then when, she jumped out of that and jumped into the mirror, now you'll have to understand that by reading it.
Yes. It's pretty interesting. I was really
Jumped into the mirror.
Huh?
You say jumped into the mirror.
Yeah. So I'm saying now
Right.
you won't understand that till you read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, type thing. But at the same time, when Jonathan told her, well, yes, you're very beautiful, but at the same time, I saw my wife first. If I saw you first, then I might have, considered marrying you.
It was a trick question because
Yeah.
he knew she was upset.
Yeah, she was upset.
She was
And-
pissed.
and the bottom line, so she said, wrong answer, Jonathan. The question should have been Nisha. The
Yep.
curse will come through your child.
Yes. Oh, I got the chills again. It's so good. So we want to get into how you got into writing, right?
Yeah. What was the inspiration for the book? How did that come
Well,
to you?
I tell everybody that, I'm actually a songwriter.
Ooh.
So I write songs, and there are 2 songs that go with this story.
Oh.
Okay, now it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Lulu, Apple Books, and Google Books. But if you buy, and also Authors Republic, and several others, but those are the main ones. But if you actually buy it and say at Audible, then there are 2 songs, if you buy the audiobook, that are a bonus that you get with it. And there are 2 songs that I wrote for this particular story, okay? But as I was saying, I was actually a songwriter, and let me explain. Now, I'm not sure what phase you call it, but I think it's called beta state, when you're laying in there and stuff comes to you, you know. And so while you're laying there, you know, it comes, trust me, it comes in true stereo and 4 color, okay? But if you just wake up, it dissipates.
That happens to me a lot.
Yeah.
Some of my best ideas are usually as I'm waking up, and then I say to myself, oh my God, I got to remember this. This is a great idea. Then I wake up, I'm like, what was I just thinking about?
Yeah, that's exactly. So you have to learn how to lay in that state. Now, I believe it's beta state. Correct me if I'm wrong.
What do you
but
think,
at the same
Solomon?
time,
So far,
so you
beta
have to learn how to
state's,
stay there to get enough of it so that when you get enough of it, you can take that and then get up and go do it. Now, sometimes it's extremely strong. This particular situation, it was strong all night, and I couldn't shake it. And I got up the next morning and still had the whole thing. And so that was so unusual, you know, type thing. And I was going around the whole day and was just stuck in my mind. So I was over to my auntie's, who is now 104 years old.
Oh, congratulations.
You know, love you, auntie, you know, type thing.
Yes.
But at the same time, it was 100, you know, it was just stuck in my mind. So I was telling her, I said, I can't get this dream out of my mind. So she said, well, what was the dream about? So I explained to her what the dream was about. She said, you didn't dream that. You saw that on TV somewhere. Tell me where you saw that so I can go see that. And you know how the little light bulb turns on? So the little light bulb turned on. I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. And from that was the start, you know. And up until now, which is many years later, we've come up with what we call, what we consider the final product. But it's also a trilogy.
A trilogy,
Yeah.
yes.
First one leaves you knowing it has to be a second one, but it's not a cliffhanger.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like 2 things that you're saying. One is the book came from a dream. Like it was an inspiration from a dream. And you were compelled enough to say, all right, I'm gonna really write the story. But I think it's very cool, point 1. And then always like a little added bonus for us and the viewers is you're talking about a state of consciousness,
Yes.
in which there's an immense amount of creativity available to the human brain.
Right.
Right.
Beautiful.
And that you have your own experience with how do you capture that, right? That I it's in this space of like just about conscious but not quite.
Yeah.
Still kind of unconscious and sleeping.
Exactly.
And you're kind of teetering on both sides of the mind.
Right.
Where the unconscious is all this creative potential.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious as like an added bonus for us and also
Yes,
for viewers is
absolutely.
what is your unique way of capturing that moment, right? Like there are so many who like Louise, like, oh, that's a great idea. And then it kind of escapes them. How do you do it? How do you kind of capture those moments?
What you have to learn to do is because, like she said, she's almost there. Because she wakes up and says, she's not fully awake, and she says, I have to figure out how to try to hold this.
Yes,
okay?
I do. I talk to myself.
Okay, so what I'm saying is you're almost where you have it, okay? But what you have to do is you have to try to capture, let me say, the main points or the mega points of what you hear, because you're not going to capture all of it. It's going to dissipate.
Yes.
Okay? So you have to try to capture the main points, or when it's a song, I try to get the main melody, you know what I'm saying? Or try to see if I can get enough of it. But then a lot of times you have to get up and go straight to pad and pen, or you have to go straight to the keyboard and knock it out. If you don't, it just dissipates.
Immediately.
Yeah. But you learn over time if you continue to practice it, because if they come to you like that, they will consistently come to you like that, and you have to learn how to lay there in that beta wave state, as you know, as he just explained, is what it is. when you see that, you have to learn to lay there, and just try to soak up as much of it as you can before it leaves.
Yeah.
And then when you get up,
I think that's very wise. I think one, just as a tactical strategy of like, hey, you're gonna have to write this down because it's gonna go away. I think just at a practical level that's very important. But I think what's really useful is to just say you're not gonna remember all of it, so don't try to. Just hear the main melody.
Yeah.
Get the main nugget of that dream.
Main
and
idea.
be okay with. You're not gonna get the whole thing.
No, you're not gonna get the whole thing.
Just try to get the main.
Try to get a main grasp of what the main point was. If it's a story, get the main point. Then you have to take it from there and build on it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. If it's a song, I try to get the main melody or some of the main words. And hopefully I can get enough of the words and a little bit of the melody that I can take it and put it all together. If I get one or the other, then I'll try to figure out the rest. But normally, like it becomes, a lot of times it'll come with the melody and with the words. And like I said, while you're in that beta state, it's like it's actually 4-color and it's in stereo.
Wow.
That's why people don't really understand, but when you get into it, it really is.
So just to kind of like wrap that part up and get back to your book, what I think is important just for a viewer, right, is in that moment of twilight of both
Twilight
consciousness and unconsciousness.
Exactly.
Is it's okay that you're not going to get it all. Don't try to get it all.
No.
Just like to our author's point is just try to get the enough of it.
Yeah, the gist
and
of
then you can build on it.
Right.
That's
what
great.
you have to do.
Yeah.
And you learn how to build on it after you've done that for 2 or 3 times and get just that main gist. That's what you want to get.
What was that for this book, if you could recall? Like, what was that main gist?
That's a good question because it's gone through such a transition. But I think the main point, that's a great point. I'd have to try to remember because like I say, it's been through such a transition.
Sure.
But I think the main point that if I can remember correctly, was the fact that I could see Jonathan and Christina. I could see them, and I could see them in this beautiful place. Now, it wasn't the manor, but I saw them in a beautiful setting. Okay, and that was the basis of it. But then, there was a little bit more of it, but I can't remember exactly all of it. But it came, it came high enough. I got enough of it that I could take that little gist of Jonathan and Christina, and move forward with it because I can't remember exactly where I saw them, but I saw them in a situation, but they were in distress.
How interesting.
I remember them being in distress, and it was just bothering me because the distress part was the part that was bothering me when I was awake.
What a vision. I like that. Like, so the original vision is I see this couple. They're in this sort of delightful place, and then at the same time, it's like, but there's something wrong.
Yeah, and I can't remember if the distress part was. There were. There was a storm. There was something in the background that was very distressful, and you could see the distress on their face.
I'm like this.
Can you speak about that? Like, one of the things that we were talking about a little earlier is that the characters encounter like the incredible, like intellectual or intelligent kind of a challenge and spiritual warfare. That they're like these very high functioning people with great intellect and great spiritual capacity, and they have this sort of like challenge. Can you talk about that?
Here's the thing: Jonathan and Christina are considered to be arguably they are one of the 3 richest couples in the world,
and intelligent.
And nobody knows which one is richer. But Jonathan is considered to be arguably the most intelligent person on earth. But he says the only person more intelligent than him is his wife, Christina. Okay? And so that's where you get that. But now what has happened is Jonathan and Christina, they have multiple homes. Okay? But they haven't really settled into one home.
They have multiple houses and they don't have a
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
You know, that they considered their main stay place. Well, they had been discussing that. So when they got the invitation, because what had happened was in the earlier century, 100 years before, you know, Baron Barry, who had built it, and let me just go back and say this. You know, Peter Cran, which the town is named for, and Baron Barry, you know, let me put it this way. Okay, Peter Cran had gone on a trip, and he had bought all these fine linens and stuff that he was bringing back to London. Him and Baron Barry, who was considered one of the richest men in the world at that time, were very good friends. Okay, so he had all this deal, and there was a storm that arose. Okay, now this storm arose in that area, and as I told you, nobody wanted to go down to the straits of this area because it was considered holy land, you know, very sacred land, and anybody that sinned would be cursed. Generations of their families would be cursed. Okay, but this storm arose, and it looks like they were about to lose the ship, and so you know, the ship captain said, "Man, I hate to do this, but I'm gonna have to throw all your stuff overboard to try to lighten the load on the ship, so to save it." Okay, and Peter was saying, "What?" You know, and he was saying, "Man, I just wish there was some way that we could save my ship. I mean, save my stuff." And he heard the captain kind of muddle, "Well, I could go down through this other way, but I ain't going down through there." And he heard him and said, "What?" So he goes back to his cabin, gets a gun, puts it up to his head and said, "Go down through there, die now." Well, when they go down through the channel, it's the waters are calm, but the old scuzzy crew is on their knees begging and pleading for mercy. And Peter's like, "Okay, what's up with this?" You know. And so then the captain tells him, this is the area that everybody considers as the angels' playground on earth and it's sacred land. And nobody wants to come down through here because nobody can come through here without sinning. Well, he goes back. He's so beautiful, he can't believe it. So he goes back and tells his friend, you know, Baron Barry, well, Baron Barry has an ulterior motive for why he needs to find this place. But he tells Peter, I can't believe that, but, you know, I'll help you put your expedition together to find it, okay? So now they come back to the land, and Baron Barry builds his place, you know, his mansion, which is called the Manor, on the plateau between the two tallest mountains in that area, which is where legend says the angels ascended and descended from heaven. Okay, but he had a reason for wanting to do that, you know, an ulterior motive that comes into play when Jonathan Hamilton comes 100 years later. And he has to uncover the problems as to why, you know, he and his family is being engrossed by these curses.
Cursed, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It's I'm telling you, I was like, oh, this is going to be hard for me to read. But then when I got past those 2-3 chapters, I was like, oh, man, Nisha's dirty. And, ooh, Jonathan's, he was that bad 100 years ago. They've never changed at all. Like, oh my God. And then Christina, she's funny because she knows how to work Jonathan.
Yeah.
She knows how to work him.
Yeah.
So she's smart because, she knows. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Well, and then Christina, once she got there, Jonathan was asking her what she says, you know, it's strange. I feel like I've been here all my life, you know. And she said, I just been here a few minutes. She said, it's strange because they were in shock when they walked into the manor and saw, you know, Meridian's picture. She was an identical lookalike.
I know, it's good. It's that.
You know, and they got there 100 years to the day,
it was,
you know, that she had died. You know, and Jonathan found that awful strange. He's like, okay,
he thought
I need more information about this. And that's why he started his research. But then Christina, you know, she began to, after some things began to happen in the manor, she began to say, okay, they didn't tell us the whole thing. So she began to do her research. So, you know, but a lot of people missed the research that Christina was doing. And then, you know, when it gets to the tail end and she, you know, did what she did, which I won't tell you, you know.
You can't. We can't tell anything about that because we want to make sure that everybody buys it and reads it, or, you know, it's a good, it gets pretty deep, you know. But I will tell everybody this, you know, it takes you on a whirlwind through a lot of different situations. But you don't get to what the actual mystery is that Jonathan has to solve. If you follow Jonathan,
you're going to follow the person that has to solve the mystery, type thing. But that you don't get to that until there's only less than 20% of the book left. Mm-hmm. But meanwhile, you're following this course because he hasn't figured it out. And then a couple things happen that allows him to snap, and the mayor's like saying, it's just really unfair for somebody to be that smart and have that much money.
Wow. I'm so I'm really, I can't wait once I'm done with the end of it because I'm just already into it. And I'm just I want to finish this book now. I want to finish it.
Well, we have a lot of people like that. A lot of people, I had people to tell me that they read it from start to finish. Mm-hmm. I had one gentleman that was a banker. He was a vice president of a bank. And he said, Daniel, he said, man, I've read this book 3 times. I get something different every time.
Yes. But see, and this is the thing for me. Mm-hmm. I'm there's many ways to see this. You can see this scientifically, religiously, mm-hmm. or what's the other way? I mean, I don't know. For me, it was just scientifically or religiously, right?
Or fantasy. You could do fantasy as well.
There's a lot of fantasy in this book. There is a lot.
And then there's also some funny scenes in the book too.
Yes.
Mary, she was Christina's confidant and head maitre d'. Yes. But, she was scared of her own shadow.
She was cute when she ran to the back. She was running.
She was I don't need to be washing no underwear tonight.
I know, that was funny. I love that part.
That thing,
Yes.
And then there's the part where, Jonathan came over to Russell Myers, who was the town editor, and they became very good friends because they were both, Russell had a photographic memory, and he provided a lot of the information that Jonathan needed. And Jonathan knew at this point he had to have more information. And so he told him, I need to go up to Miss Mamie's tonight. And Russell's eyes got big as silver dollars. Man, I told you, I don't want to go up there no nighttime. We have to go up there in the daytime. Mm-hmm. And that part up to her house was really a funny scene.
Yeah. This is great. I really, really hope that this turns into a series or a book, a movie or something, because it's really good. It kind of took me back to the Harry Potter books, Harry Potter, all the whimsical and all the fantasy and all
the magic.
Oh my God, the magic. Yes. So when you read this is what you get for adults.
Well, now I'll say this too also. Jonathan is the type of person, he's a very sincere person. His thing is he believes everything can be solved with logic, money, and power. Mm. But I put him in a situation where he couldn't solve it with any of the above. But he had to solve it or his empire would be destroyed and they could very well lose their life.
He needed common sense.
So he had to look outside of what was his normal box.
Right.
To try to figure out how to solve the mystery. Mm-hmm. Another thing is that what you understand, this is a trilogy. And so the first one leaves you knowing it has to be a second one. And I will tell you this, the second one, moved from the mystical suspense island into the inner cities of New York City. But you're on a timeline. It has to be solved by this timeline. And it gets real deep. Because the first one, you have to establish the premise where it's believable. Mm-hmm. And so that is why I had to stay with a solid foundation, through the whole thing, even though it keeps you in suspense. But, the second one is wide open. Yeah. I took some liberties. Instead of just having the old good versus evil deal, I took some new liberties and took it in a whole different direction.
What just boggles me is his train of thought of all this, right? It's wow, how can you make this up?
Right?
It's cool.
Really creative and prolific mind.
Yes.
Listening to you, what interests me is my mind goes to what are the lessons that this book might teach, and what are people saying about it. One of the things that it's making me say that is there are these different legend or stories of what happens when you mess with hallowed ground, right? Mm-hmm. There are these different stories from different cultures, countries, places that say you need to have respect for sacred ground, or
the curses come.
Yeah, things can kind of go awry.
Absolutely.
Which is what really caught my eye when you said Baron decides. you know, in the face of all those old adages, he's like, I'm gonna build a house right smack in the middle of this, precisely where the angels were believed to rise and descend.
Yeah, where they ascended and descended.
Yes.
And there's all these kind of like, it just brought back all these old adages of like, don't be disrespectful to hallowed ground, or things can kind of go.
But here's the thing on that. Here's the thing on that. He has an ulterior motive where he has to build it there. Okay? That's
what a twist.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
What a twist.
Yeah. But here's the whole thing. They brought people back and that were from very sophisticated, rich, skilled people, and so the question is, first of all, Baron Barry had a scenario with, if you, I don't know if you read this part, but where he encountered a major storm.
I haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
Wait, what chapter is that?
I'm not sure exactly what chapter
Like
that is.
13, 14?
Yeah, somewhere
Okay.
in there.
Yeah,
But he encounters a major storm, and some major things happen because there's some bad dudes that have some stuff on his ship. And so you have to get into that.
I'm telling you.
But now you have to understand that the question is, was the storm that he faced have any connection to the storm that Peter Cranton faced?
I was just going to say that. I'm
Okay.
telling you.
And what is the connection, and why was that something that brought them both to Cranton, and why were they both brought to Cranton?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you have to begin to understand what Baron Barry's, alternative motive for wanting to find this place. Now, he never let on to, Peter Cranton, but at the same time, he had to find this place.
But Barry died. He existed 100 years ago.
Before.
Yeah, before. So I haven't. Now, is his motive going to come in the chapters at the end? Okay.
Yeah, it comes because here's what happens, okay? And I'll tell you this, this much I'm telling you, let me say this. Anybody that's thinking about buying a book, you still don't know nothing about the book.
I was going to say.
Everything I told you, you
Twister.
still don't
I think you're
understand
doing a
nothing
great
about the book.
job kind of talking about the book
Yes.
without giving it away, and really kind of letting a reader know, like, this is going to boggle your mind
Telling you guys.
spiritually,
Yeah.
religiously, scientifically,
Yeah.
intellectually.
Yeah.
If you're a reader.
You're not giving it away, but you're letting us know there's a lot of
it's enough
twists
for you to understand that,
and a lot of fun.
And I get people that, I had one lady, she was a vice president. She said she had retired, but she was a vice president of a major motion picture company. Mm-hmm. So she read scripts and everything all the time. And so her husband was a mechanic, and he and I would, we were very cool, and he'd work on my cars. So one time she said, Daniel, why don't you, she said, bring me a copy of your book. Let me read it. So I said, well, okay, no problem. So I brought her a copy, and she called me the very next evening. She said, I'm so mad at you, I don't know what to do. I said, what do you mean? She said, I started on that book, about an hour after you left, and she said, normally I can figure out where a book goes in 20 to 25 minutes.
Yes.
And she said, I can tell you where it's going and everything. She said, I got started, and she said, it got about 12 o'clock. I said, well, I need to cheat and figure out where it's going, because I got to be up for a meeting at 8 o'clock. I got to be there at 8, so I got to get ready by starting at 6. She said, I went to the back of the book, and she said, I got so frustrated, I wanted to call you in the middle of the night.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't.
No, you can't do it with the book.
You can't do it with the book. It's interesting.
Folks,
you can't.
disclaimer, read at your own risk. This may disturb your sleep. You might be late for 8 a.m.
I'm telling you guys,
Page turner.
it really
And
is.
a mind boggler.
So
What are some of your readers saying? Like when they come back to you, like what are they? You're already kind of answering like what one reader is saying, but like what are some of the feedbacks that you're hearing?
Well, the main feedback is everybody says, I can't wait to see this as a movie. That's one of the main feedbacks we get.
That's what I said.
Because everybody tells me it reads just like a picture show. I can see
sure
everything,
does.
Type thing. But a lot of a couple things. I had one lady. She was in one of my Zumba classes, and so it was a Thursday, and she came to me and she said, "Well, Dan, what do you do?" I said, well, I'm retired from corporate America, in upper echelon sales and management. And I said, but I'm writing books now. She said, oh, yeah, what you write? And I told her, I said, well, I got one that I've just finished. It's on the market. And she said, oh, yeah, what's the name of it? I told her what the name of it was. And then she said, oh, okay. Well, class started. Well, the next Tuesday I see her. She comes up and she said, Dan, my sister in Florida done read the book. My sister in North Carolina's read the book. I've read the book, and we got some questions. So I had to get on the phone with all of them, for their questions. They had some serious questions. Then she tells me, she says, I'm also a member of book club. Would you come to our book club?
This is going to be so good for anybody out there that has book clubs. Honestly, this is a great book. Like, get a couple of friends, read the book, because it's so interesting to read one same book, but every person have different feedback and theories about it. It
sounds like one thing that you did is it naturally compels all these questions, right? Like there's all these questions that are occurring in the book about who is this? Why is this happening? How is this related to that?
Yeah.
Right. And so you've written it in such a way that causes these questions
will come as you go
so
like a book.
Like a book club, people are going to have these questions.
Debates.
Well, let me tell you this. I had a book club. I had a book club that asked me to come. And I was like, okay, I'll come. And when I got there, those ladies, it was like a bunch of ladies. They had pad, they had pencil. And I mean, you talking about opinionated opinions. Those ladies went at it so hard. I mean, they had me scratching my head. Okay, seriously. But let me say this. Here's a gift to some of the people. There are some very, very, clues that are, some of them are in the very early chapters that most people miss. If you miss those clues, that's what the vice president of the bank was telling me. He said, man, I had to go back and find them clues.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because that stuck to me. When Nisha, is that one of the clues? When Nisha curses Jonathan?
When he what?
When she curses Jonathan 100 years prior to now.
Okay. Well, now, actually, what she did, what she cursed was, her curse was in modern times. So even though she was 100 years before, remember, she was in Lula Mae's shop. Okay, but here's what she did. Okay,
I have to get my glasses on.
when something very seriously happened that happened to Meridian, the men of Cranton came to run her out of Cranton because she had never intended to give up, Mikhail, who was Baron Barry's grandson, who who had no idea of what was going on, but it had all fallen on him. But he had no idea. Okay, so when that happened, I'm saying she ends up, where they realize they've got to get her out of town because she is causing,
havoc.
Yeah, she's causing havoc. Not only that,
she is
spoiling the I'm saying, where she's doing things that people are saying, like I said, if you sin, and she considered a major sin that everybody thought would spoil their prosperity. So the men of Cranton gathered together to run her out of town. Mm-hmm. And she told them, no, I'll go. But before I go, let me leave you with this curse.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what you're talking about.
Yes, I'm looking for it on here.
And she told them, one of your own will win your hearts and terrorize your soul.
Yes, one of your own. Like, in other words, like your children's children, possibly, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, okay, see.
Okay.
So, guys, this one's got a lot of twists and turns.
Oh, it's a lot of twists and turns.
Curses and mysticism and, fun.
Well,
and
I'll give you another
question.
thing.
But hold on just one second. Because we're actually coming up on the time, if you can believe it.
Yes.
So what I want to give to you, Louise and Daniel, is like, is there any kind of final thoughts or things that you would want a would-be reader to know or get ready for? And then maybe we'll start kind of putting a bow on this and wrapping it up.
Okay, all right. Well, the main thing that I want people to understand is that, first of all, once again, the book is 100% fictional, okay? Now, but like I said, the characters are also 100% fictional. But because so many people identify with the characters, the story becomes very real to people, okay? And so that's it. But then also, if you look at, like you said, you looking at it was kind of boring the first couple of, I tell everybody, you miss the clues in those chapters and they're deceptive purposely. Then when you get down to where it really gets into, those clues are very important that you have. So read it with intensity, and
Yes.
understanding even from the very beginning.
Yes.
Because you're going to need all of those things that happen
Oh, yeah.
in the early stages.
I have all my little clues that I thought about that could be part of it highlighted in here because I was like, oh no. I'm like, why was this thought about?
Right.
But anyways,
let me add one thing if I might. Okay. On the website, which is Star Global, STARRGLOBAL.store. If you go there, there's a trailer about the whole scenario. And then there is also questions, okay? And the questions are many questions that people from book clubs and everything have asked me.
ooh.
Okay? And so we
Solomon.
have 10 and we'll change them every so often. Now we're a little late in changing the question of the month, which the question of the month, it still has July because we're working on the website, but it's still accessible. But the question of the month was, what was the question, the main important question that Jonathan asked the priest?
Mhm.
Okay? Now, a lot of people had a problem with that, and I'll give you that away because it's August, okay? The main question that he asked the priest was, he asked the priest, was the spirit eternal and was the soul a part of the spirit?
Mhm.
Okay? The priest replied that when God breathed life into man, he breathed his spirit into man. He said, and that was, and he said, when he did that, the spirit had intelligence.
Mhm.
And that was the soul of man. So it is eternal.
See, isn't that crazy? It has a lot. Scientific.
And also, thank you for putting that website up so people can
Yes, thank
watch
you,
a preview.
Solomon.
And also for readers to actually
Yeah.
have some question or prompts to kind of maybe guide their experience of the book.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, and thanks
Yeah.
for coming
Thank you.
tonight.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's
It
my
was-
pleasure. Thank
oh
you all
my
for having me.
Oh,
I
it was
so
great.
enjoyed your sitting visiting with the both of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It was a treat. And I'm going to go home, finish the rest of this.
Okay.
And then you're going to have to get reading.
Yeah, I'm interested too, and I'll just say
Yeah.
as a kind of final words,
Oh,
and then I'll
yeah.
let you kind of take us out. Is
Mhm.
it sounds like a book that really has it all, and that has a lot of intrigue, and will cause people to have to think.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
it.
And I think those are makings of a good book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I pray that this makes it. I really do. It's good.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Thank you,
You
Daniel.
have to think. and you have to understand those clues because some of them are so subtle, you miss them,
Mm.
Yeah.
But then you come back and you realize,
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Thank
Okay.
you, Daniel, so much.
thank you all
We
so much for
appreciate-
having me.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh my goodness, the pleasure has been ours. And you guys, please go out there, purchase, support Daniel. Great.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Lulu, Apple Books, and Google Books.
There you go, guys.
And
Read
it's
it.
also on Audible in all 4 forms.
Oh boy. And do me a favor, if you do read the book, make sure you comment. Okay? Comment on our episode and let us know what you thought.
And
right?
if you also do, please give me a Amazon like.
There you go.
5-star like.
There you guys go. Give
Likes
them-
all the way around.
Likes,
Likes for the
yeah.
And a
book.
review. And a review.
Likes, comments, subscriptions for the
Don't
podcast
forget to
tonight.
subscribe to Let Loose with Lou and Steve.
All right, guys.
You guys
Good
have
night.
a good one.
And
Bye.
let me say, it was really good to get loose with Lou.
Oh,
and
that's
Steve.
what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah.
That's it.
You heard it. That's all for today. Thank you for watching and listening. It truly means the world to me. If you enjoy the show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe at Let Loose with Lou on Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify.